Hallo zu einer weiteren Ausgabe, nämlich die zweite von Puresque TV. Wir sind in Kreuzberg mal wieder vor der Space Hall. Heute nicht mit Rike, wie ihr seht, denn die
Rike ist uns letztes Mal mit den Axiom-Jungs durchgebrannt und leider verschollen. Aber dafür haben wir heute den Gabriel aus der Space Hall, der wird die Jungs von The Black Dog gleich interviewen. Und it's a pleasure to have you guys here and we're very much looking forward for tonight, the tresor and the interview.
Thank you very much for having us, and we're looking forward to playing.
You are from Sheffield. Can you tell us something about the town and the history it has with electronic music?
Sheffield's quite an industrial city, and it's had a long history with electronic music via artists like Cabaret Voltaire, Clock DVA, who in turn were influenced by German bands like Faust, Amel, Duel, Cluster. So we kind of have a lot of affinity with Germany and particularly Berlin. But Sheffield's a great city to live in, to get left alone just to do your own thing, and that's why we've, unlike most techno DJs, we've not moved to Berlin yet. We prefer to stay where we are.
Sheffield's also really famous for the early 90s kind of bleepy techno sound, like in the birthplace of Warp, I guess. Yeah, and the LFO. Have you been influenced by this sound as well?
Yeah, I think it's all been an influence over the years when you're growing up with it and it's always around you. Yeah, it seeps through. I mean, we still play bits of it in DJ sets now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks that Warp was a really big success in Sheffield. Sheffield's a really difficult city to promote in. If you put a big name DJ on in Sheffield, you'd be lucky to get 200 people to it. So Warp spent a lot of time putting on a lot of great stuff and releasing a lot of great stuff that we've got a lot of respect for, and of course they released some of the early Black Dog releases as well before we were involved. But they worked religiously on things, and they involved a lot of Sheffield artists, and they were really successful. And you know, it's nice to have that recognition for the city. But everybody imagines that it was a lot bigger, or everybody was busy making electronic music, and there were lots of club nights and lots of things happening. And there wasn't. There really wasn't.
That's an interesting point. Both of you actually in the beginning haven't been involved in the Black Dog when it started out. So how did this come about that you joined the Black Dog?
I've been friends with Ken through doing bulletin boards before the internet existed. So we used to do a thing called Wildcat BBS, in which you turned your home computer into an access node, and Ken had Black Dog Towers and I had Nexus 21, and I knew Ken and I was doing electronic music, he was doing electronic music, and we've been friends since 1989. We talked about doing stuff together, and you know, Black Dog's been going for 23 years now. We've been involved for 11 years. There's been 4 lineup changes. It's got a long history of being a good working collective of people and ideas, and it seems to work, so we just leave it as it is, and it works for us.
And so what do you think makes a Black Dog track?
Oh shit.
Who knows?
I don't know. A lot of people have got a lot of different ideas of what Black Dog is and what Black Dog should be. A lot of people still want us to, or would love us to keep repeating, making bites and spanners and just keep doing the same thing. The important thing is that Black Dog are a collection of artists, and as an artist, if you continue to paint the same picture every day, then you're not an artist, you're a factory worker. And that's not what we do. We work as a group of people who've got ideas, who love to get influenced by stuff, who love to see young artists coming up, love like Blamois, Sigger, Shifted, really into everything, and still love it. And I think that's what's important. That's why Black Dog works with personnel that's in it, is because we still love what we do, and we get up every day, drive to the studio and work and do that. And you know, if people still want us, if it's great that people have got a favourite period, and it's great that they love a certain record, but we're not going to repeat it, and I don't think we ever will. I like the future more than the past.
Yeah, and I think it's been going long enough now as well that there's a whole new audience coming through that have never heard the old stuff, so they're discovering both sides of it.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting for us to see that contrast and different opinions coming from the audience.
Not that it matters, because an artist shouldn't care what other people think. An artist does what they do and then releases it, and that's it. That's your statement, and whether people agree or disagree, you know, it doesn't really matter.
So you said you go almost every day to the studio, and are all the three of you working together in the studio when you're producing, or is it just like you're sending stuff back and forth? How are you working?
Sometimes it's all three of us in the studio, but Ken lives on a boat. He decided to drop even further out of society, so you can't contact him. There's no address for him. We've got a phone number, nobody else has. You can't find him. He didn't want anything to do with anybody else, and you know, we really respect that. But we've got a load of servers where we just FTP things to each other, talk to each other each day. We're all really good at communicating on email and sending ideas to each other, and it just works. But it works because we're friends first. You know, when we talk about ideas, we're involved in politics, you know, we care about stuff, and that's why it works. I think it works because we're friends first, and then ideas, well, what about this, what about that? There's no magic to it, we just get up and work on as machines, just that's what we do, and then what about this? And if it's rubbish, it gets binned. I mean, I've written an Orbital album. If they're watching this, they can buy it off me. But it'll never get released, because you, as a creative person, you make music and you make the music that comes out, and you just know it's not a Black Dog track, but you just have to finish it. And Black Dog is always involved in. Sometimes we tended to work with themes and creative ideas, like things against government, things against CCTV, working in airports, but just getting really involved in it, in a topic and a subject, and I guess that's how we work. I don't know how other people work.
No, there's also, because it's a friendship as well, there's no real pressure to actually, you have to do this, you have to deliver, you have to turn up to do this event, this gig. It's more relaxed than that. If someone wants to drop out or do something else for a bit, perfectly fine to do that. If we wanted to go off and do a different project, you can do.
Sometimes
no fixed rules.
Yeah, sometimes Ken decides that he wants to come and play. Most of the time he doesn't, because he didn't want to deal. He didn't want to deal with crowds, he didn't want to deal with airports, he didn't want to deal with security, and to be honest, sometimes I don't blame him.
So how are the two of you representing your work in a live environment? How does it differ from like the last album, for example, like, which is, I guess, a bit more on a listening tip, some of the tracks, but when you're playing at Tresor, I guess it's like proper techno clubs. So
yeah, the new live set is a mixture of the Liber Dogma material released on Soma, which is a bit more of a listening piece, as an hour-long piece, and then we also bring in the Dust Science releases, the singles we've done, which are much harder, more minimal, stripped down.
Yeah, really hypnotic.
And then we've been remixing those tracks and reworking them to build this live set that is, I think, a little bit different, a little bit harder. Certainly for us, it's a lot harder.
One of the things that we found when we were following DJs, some DJs have got a terrible trick of playing the fastest record that they've got in the bag before we come on, and it makes it so difficult to follow. And you know, we have some problems with kind of like confidence and the same kind of thing, so we kind of decided that we'd have all our songs stripped down into parts, and we'd have different bass drums, and we'd be able to change tempo, and we'd be able to match what they were doing, mix into it, and then change to what we wanted to do. But we always set off to do what we want to do, and sometimes it's quite difficult because you know that you're going to clear the floor, and you know that you're going to have to start again, and it's having confidence to do that, and that, even to this day, still makes me incredibly nervous, because you want to drop that track that you know that, but you have to wait and you have to plan it and you have to do it properly. Richard's better at programming for DJ sets than I am. I tend to get a bit more carried away.
Do it now, the big one.
Yeah.
So how are you doing it? Is it just kind of a jam thing where like you might do some beat and then you play something over it, or is it like fixed that so one does the drums and one does the synths or something like that?
Just track by track,
Yeah.
and it depends what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go with it. So it's not really fixed.
So what you do is you just you've got 2 laptops and some effects, and you create a situation where you can do anything and you're not a slave to the machines. And for example, when we played with Dadavistic Orchestra, we had 4 laptops that none of them were synced, so you had to listen and bring things in on time. And sometimes we do that, and sometimes it works, sometimes computers crash, sometimes we make mistakes, but you know, you live and learn, and some things you play Bergen and you'll have a fantastic set, everything will go really well, and then you travel to Poland next day and you kind of think, well, we'll do something a little bit similar to that, because that were fantastic, and it didn't work, and you need to be able to change things on flying to be able to move about. So we think like DJs but use computers.
So can you tell us something about the concept behind the Liber series that you're doing?
Yeah, well, Liber means book, and it also means the free one. And the idea was to create a series of books and free thinking bits of music that was really hypnotic. So if you're in a dark room with a flashlight and a smoke machine, it just needs to take you to a place where you don't need to think, where you can just dance and just get into a state of what's called neither, where you don't have to think anything, you just get into this hypnotic state. And that's what we tried to create in studio, and that's what we released. So we were creating them one by one. The 12 inches were kind of like aimed more at the dance floor, and the album was aimed at the home listener or somebody driving in a car. Slightly, it's kind of like you need to get lost in this and lose all sense of space and time and just have a really good time, because you know the tribal element in a human where you can leave yourself and just have a really good time with friends. You know, we need to bring him back. People need to have a good time. You need a release. And when we play in more working class cities who tend to do more drugs, they have a really good time, and you can see them getting lost in it, and that's wonderful.
So you really, while you're performing, you watch the crowd to see when like this moment is when people just like click.
Yeah, so that's the idea. But if it didn't work in studio, it didn't get released and it got binned. If it didn't create that motion and that feeling, that's what we go with. Sometimes people agree with us, sometimes they don't.
Well, you can't second guess that.
I'm not interested either. So
if we think it's working, it's done.
The album appeared as vinyl release on your own label Dust Science, and the CD was on Soma.
Yeah.
So can you tell us something about Dust Science, when you set it up, and what the future plans are?
That was, well, the label was formed, I think the first release was 7 years ago now, and that was the first Black Dog release we put out as this current lineup. From then on, we've just had a nice steady stream of solid ideas.
At first, you released stuff like Claude Young, and
we did quite a bit of Detroit stuff, and vinyl markets changed quite a lot. But we always saw releasing vinyl as kind of like releasing an art object. It's a beautiful object still to hold. It's a beautiful object to spin. It's tactile. There's something really great about it, and we wanted to continue to do that. So we've gone from one extreme to another. So we do like 180 gram vinyl. We got Simon Francis, who's a really good mastering engineer to cut our stuff.
It's Exchange, right?
No, he works. He works for the Wired Masters. But we spend a lot of love and care on it, because they're great objects, and we care a lot about it. And we don't feel that we need to compete with anybody else or anybody else's label. We just put out what we love. And this year we got Liber Acid, which is all three of us again in studio with just analog equipment. Some Xerox Girls, some more Dadavistic Orchestra, and some new artists that we hope to announce to sign pretty soon. But we're in no rush, and we just enjoy putting stuff out. I still really enjoy the process of recording and cutting and looking at artwork and doing labels. It's great. A lot of people say it's a pain in the arse and it's easy to do digital stuff, and yet it is. But you know, sometimes it's about making a great, beautiful object.
Yeah, like I once heard an interview with DJ Bone, and he said that because it is expensive, it pushes you because you have to actually care more than just putting out a digital release. Yeah. Would you agree to that?
I think it's a good point. The price barrier works. I guess it works if you're working class and haven't got much money. The price barrier certainly doesn't work because there's still a shitload of shit records, and and there always has been and there always will be, because to a lot of people it's a status symbol, but to us it's always been a magical object. When you were young and you got your pocket money and you went off into town and you saved up for months to buy it, and then you got the record and then you read the cover on the way home. That stuff's great, and that still holds for me. I guess the day that doesn't matter is the day that we stop.
Yeah.
We are almost getting ready for going over to the Tresor, and well, please tell us what to expect tonight.
Oh, I think we're going to spend some time in there, having a look what people are doing upstairs, having a look what people are doing downstairs, rearrange our set on fly, and then give people 120 minutes of Sheffield industrial powered techno, and see how the people in Berlin like that. I think it'd go down pretty well. It's a really nice club, and we've got quite a long relationship with Dimitri, who owns the club, going back to 1985. So you know, it's always a great place to play. And I think the thing about Tresor as well is a lot of people are open-minded, so you can place. A lot of people think just because you're downstairs you've got to pound it out. You don't need to. I mean, we've played breaks down there and we've had a really good time, and we've tried things and people have loved it, and we've always had a great time. So, yeah.
Ja, ich finde interessant, wie verwöhnt wir hier in Berlin eigentlich sind, dass die bei riesen Line-Ups 200 Leute in den Clubs haben. Da muss man wirklich sagen, ne? Man hält es ja schon so für normal, dass hier so viele weggehen. Und ja, ich finde es sehr nett, auch dieser Fakt einfach auch mal zu sagen, so, dass halt die Freundschaft irgendwie als erstes ist und die Musik daraus resultiert und eben nicht so dieses Business-Ding, wir müssen jetzt Musik machen und so. Ja, war sehr nett, deswegen lassen wir es, glaube ich, auch ungeschnitten und in voller Länge einfach mal. Und jetzt haben wir uns was überlegt, wir wollen euch heute mal einfach ein paar Platten vorstellen, weil wir hier im Plattenladen sind, und damit fangen wir jetzt mal an.
Genau. Willst du anfangen? Soll ich anfangen? Ja, und die erste Platte ist jetzt die 4 Ratio. Das ist ein Projekt, das hat der James Ruskin mit dem Mark Broom zusammen ins Leben gerufen. Das ist eigentlich ein Ambient-Album, nur mit einer Techno-Nummer drauf, aber die finde ich...
die hat's in sich.
Die hat's in sich, ja.
Gut, jetzt haben wir uns hier was ausgesucht, und zwar, das heißt Mick Darrell. Wird der Mick ausgesprochen? Ich glaube schon. Mick Darrell. Ja, Die Nummer gefällt uns auch ziemlich gut. Ist jetzt so ein bisschen klubbiger. Hat aber so ganz schöne so Vocoder-Claps hinten raus. Wir stehen ja auf Vocoder-Sounds, haben wir eigentlich auch viel benutzt, auch im Album. Und ja, das repräsentiert so ein bisschen, sag ich mal, so wo wir ja auch hinaus wollen, so dieses Zeitlose, wenn man einfach so Zeitraum ein bisschen vergisst. Da ist das so eine Platte, da passt die ganz gut. Da hören wir jetzt mal rein.
Hier haben wir jetzt noch eine schöne diepe Nummer rausgesucht vom James Ruskin. Das ist sein OVR Live Projekt.
Zusammen mit?
Na, das ist eigentlich Kyle O'Connor, aber das ist jetzt schon eine Solo-Nummer von ihm, aber live aufgenommen in London. Und ich finde sie schön, weil sie sehr deep ist und dann kommt so ein Glockenspiel mit rein. Wir hören einfach mal rein und ich denke, das macht jedem Spaß.
So, jetzt haben wir hier noch was, das mögen wir auch sehr gerne. Das ist von Ripperton, ein Scotch-Remix. Die Jungs kommen wann kommen die zu uns? Im März.
11. März.
11. März sind sie bei uns zu Gast. Und ja, das ist ein sehr schönes Stück, eigentlich relativ minimalistisch fast, aber die Elemente, die drin sind, wirkungsvoll. Das ist, ja, es drückt so Sehnsucht eigentlich aus, auch so ein bisschen. Aber ist halt schön, so um in den Abend so reinzufliegen.
Reinzufliegen, ja. Oder rauszufliegen.
Rein oder rauszufliegen.
For the last record, we have our Black Dog guys, and yeah, probably they can say a word about their last record.
Okay, this is a track that we really love, and it's on, as you can see, really lovely blue 180 vinyl. It's called Dissident Bleep.
So, das war es erstmal mit Interview und wir gehen jetzt kurz einen trinken und machen uns dann fertig für den Tresor und freuen uns auf euch. Bis gleich.
Aber ich muss noch anmerken, wer die Jungs sehen will und nicht verpassen, nicht zu spät kommen. Die spielen um 3 Uhr und ja, wie sie gesagt haben, ein langes Set bis zu 2 Stunden. Es wird spannend. Bis gleich.